Okay, we're just about there. So we're just doing the bones and selected bone markings of the lower limb. Lower limb, you have 30 bones. So leg and lower thigh. There's 4 bones. Sorry, thigh and lower leg. It's getting late. Sorry. Femur, patella, tibia, and fibula. So like the arm, you have the humerus, radius, and ulna. So there's only 3 bones. In the leg, you have 4 bones because you have the sesamoid bone, the patella, stuck in there also. So the femur is the thigh bone, and the tibia and fibula are in the lower leg, or the leg, I guess we call it in anatomy. And the ankle and foot have 26 bones. There's 7 tarsals versus there's 8 carpals, or 8 wrist bones, but there's only 7 ankle bones. So that means there's slightly fewer bones to learn in the ankle and foot. Metatarsals, there's 5, and phalanges, there's 14 of those. So next slide. So here's the femur. So the femur looks like this. You have the head of the femur, which is here. You have the neck of the femur, so the head and the neck. And then you have what's called the lesser trochanter and the greater trochanter. So here's the greater trochanter, and here's the lesser trochanter down here. So this is a big anatomical landmark along with the head of the femur. There's also a little divot right here. Sorry, I just wrote over it, called the fovea capitis. And there's actually a ligament that comes out of there and helps hold the head of the femur into the acetabulum. So the acetabulum, which goes around, and the head of the femur is going to stick into that. Then there's a line down the back side of the femur called the linea aspera. I'm going to go back to the left side, the anterior view over here. And so we have the condyles of the femur are here and here. So we have a lateral epicondyle and a medial epicondyle. And here are your condyles of your femur. And so this is a very big outcropping. So there's your medial condyle on this side and a lateral condyle on this side. So the femur is the easiest bone to tell left from right from. You have the head of the femur up here, and you find the condyles of the femur, and so those we refer to them jokingly as the butt cheeks of the femur. And so you put them backwards, and then the head of the femur goes into the acetabulum, so you know that part is pointing towards your body. So all you do is flip it around one way or another, and you know which way it's going to go. So between the condyles of the femur, there's an intercondylar fossa. I'll try to do a little video and show that as well. And the patella is going to fit in. To the on the front side over here, the anterior side. Patella here is going to fit right over the front side, the anterior side of these condyles of the femur. And the way you orient the patella, I'm not going to ask you to do this, but the base of the patella is the top part, and the apex is the bottom part, and the apex is pointy. So, and that's actually points down. So, for whatever reason, the apex, I guess since it's pointy, they gave it the name apex, and the base is the more proximal portion of the patella. Okay, and oh, it does say intercondylar fossa right there. I knew it was on there somewhere. I just couldn't see it. Okay, then you have facets on the femur, facet for the lateral condyle and the medial condyle of the femur. So the intercondylar fossa is important because you have blood vessels and nerves that go through there. And if you remember back to your the first lab, we were talking about regions of the body. The popliteal region is the back side of the knee, and so there's nerves and blood vessels that run through the intercondylar fossa, which is the popliteal region, and one of those is called the popliteal artery. Anyway, next slide. Okay, so we have the femur and patella once again. So we have, is there anything else I need to show you on this? I don't think so. This is all the same, all exactly the same things. So next slide. So we have the patella, seeing the base and the apex. Once again, next slide. The right femur, we have the head covered with hyaline cartilage, the fovea capitis, greater trochanter and back behind it, the neck, and lesser trochanter. And when you have fractures, they're going to be graded as to whether or not they are what is called trochanteric fractures, and so it's going to be whether it's in the above or below the trochanter is going to be in the neck. And a lot of times when you have a fracture, people say they have a hip fracture, but it's actually a fracture of the neck. It's usually what it's a trochanteric fracture that's proximal to the greater trochanter is often where the hip fracture occurs. It doesn't actually happen in the pelvis. It happens usually. Fractured pelvis can happen also, but lots of times the hip fractures are often the head of the femur or just below the head of the femur in the neck. Next slide. So, and you can see these features here. So here's how the head of the femur fits into the acetabulum in the pelvis. You have the greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, and then you have the so you have condyles of the femur. And then you have epicondyles. So you have a lateral epicondyle and a medial epicondyle on the femurs as well. So little bumps that stick off the side right next to those. Then down below the femur, you have the tibia and the fibula. Fibula is always on the outside, on the lateral side. Tibia is your big shin bone. And there's a big bump right here, tibial tuberosity, and that's where the patellar tendon sticks down and attaches right there. And then you have the quadriceps femoris tendon. Goes up there and attaches to all the quadriceps muscles, which are up here. So, oops, I missed a section on that side. So, next slide. So here's the right femur, just showing the same things again. You got the head here, got the neck, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, and medial condyle, medial epicondyle, lateral condyle, intercondylar fossa there. So, next slide. And so now we go down to the tibia and fibula, or you can remember the tuba and flute. That tells you which one's bigger. The tuba would be the big one, tibia, and the flute would be the smaller one. There's also interosseous membrane holding these two bones together. And there's up on the top, this is often called the tibial plateau, because it's a big flat surface up there. It's the articular surface that articulates with the medial and lateral condyles of the femur. Then you also have condyles for the tibia. So you have the medial condyle of the femur, of the tibia, and the lateral condyle of the tibia as well. Then you have the tibial tuberosity, which is where I just pointed out the patellar tendon attaches down here, and the patella would be right here. So it will go up and attach to there. And then you have interosseous membrane. You have the anterior crest. So this is a line going right down the front, and you can feel that. That's your shin, what everybody refers to as your shin bone, or your shin. And then we have down at the distal end of the tibia, we have what's called the medial malleolus. And there's an articular surface on the bottom here, and this is where one of the first bones of the ankle fits into, the talus fits into there. And so this part sticks down here, and this is called the medial malleolus. So this is easy to tell. The tibia, you point the shin bone to the front, put the medial malleolus on the medial side, and make the tibial plateau is obviously up on top, the proximal end. And then when you get the fibula over here, it has the head of the fibula is here, and it nestles in just underneath the tibial plateau down here. So there's an articulation there, and they also articulate down here. And then there's a lateral malleolus, which is very prominent on the fibula, and that's on the outside. So you can feel both those. You can feel your ankle, which you refer to often as your ankle bones. Those are actually the medial malleolus of the tibia and the lateral malleolus of the fibula. If you reach down, feel those. Next slide. And so here we go down even farther. So I'm going to ignore most of this, and we're going to get down to the medial malleolus and lateral malleolus, and you can see the talus is the first one, the first bone of the ankle bones to the what are called the tarsals to nestle into this into the distal end of the tibia. Then there's a calcaneus, which is the heel, which are heel bone, and you can take your shoes off, you can feel that. So then you've got, so these are all the, here are all the tarsals, tarsals, so the ankle bones. Then you have the metatarsals, and then you have, once again, we have all the, so that was the tarsals, and then once again we have phalanges, just like we have in the hand. So, all right, next slide. That's just showing a couple real bones with the tibia and fibula and how they fit together. Next slide. So here's the bones of the ankle and foot, and unlike the hand, well, sort of like the hand, you count from number 1 to number 5, but you start with the big toe. So you start with the medial side. You just have to remember, you start with the thumb and the big toe whenever you're counting. So don't have to worry about medial lateral because that gets confusing. You're trying to remember 3 things at once. So just remember, you start counting from the thumb. In the hand, you start counting from the big toe and the foot. So the way to remember the bones of the ankle, the tarsals, is use the mnemonic tiger cub needs milk. So these guys are, you have the talus, and so this goes from medial to lateral. So talus and then calcaneus, then needs navicular, then milk. So we have the medial, intermediate, and lateral cuneiform, and then we have the cuboid. So that's how those are named. So you have the talus, calcaneus, navicular, medial, intermediate, lateral, cuneiform, and the cuboid. So 7 bones in the ankle. Tiger cub needs milk. Next slide. So here is a little bit better picture of it. So we have the talus here, calcaneus here, then navicular here, then we drop down, we go medial, intermediate, lateral cuneiform, and then the cuboid over there. So tiger cub needs milk. Then we have the metatarsals here. So, and they're numbered from the big toe, which is also called the hallux. And so it's metatarsal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have metacarpals in the hand, and we have metatarsals in the foot. Then we have phalanges, and so we have, once again, proximal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the proximal. Those are Roman numerals. Those proximal, phalange 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's middle phalanx 2, 3, 4, 5, and distal phalanx 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So next slide. Here's just another way of another slide looking at the mnemonic for the tarsals. So medial, intermediate, lateral cuneiform, all in order. Next slide. This is just talking about the phalanges in the and how to name the digits. And remember, if you're doing the hands, it's you have to refer to the phalanges because they're both phalanges, both in the hand and feet. So how do you know which one's which? So you have to say, well, it's the manual region in the hand. So let's say your pinky, the distal phalanx in your pinky would be distal manual phalanx 5, and the distal phalanx in your little pinky toe would be distal pedal phalanx 5. That's how you name all those. Next slide. This is another view of the bones in the ankle and foot. Next slide. Another view of that. Next slide. And we're done. All 206 bones. There you go. So there's our running guy, all the names of them, and now you actually recognize all those names. So study up, and I'll post what kind of online quiz we're going to have over this. But see you guys next video. Bye.